ungamnqabeli mnike ungamgodleli mnike ungamcisha umntana abantu mnike
It is Afro Attraction coming through with Mnike. We haven't played this song in a while. And that is how we say hello to you on this fine Wednesday afternoon. I hope you're keeping warm. The weather in our side of the country, our part of the country, is rather deceptive because if you cast your eyes outside the window, it looks like it's a beautiful, warm summer's day. But the minute you stick your hand outside, you realize how bitterly cold it is. Winter now, I think, fully in full force. Lots happening by way of current affairs this afternoon. Lots to be keeping your eyes on the news circuit. But we thought we'd take your mind off some of those things just a little bit. And coming up on the show today, we are taking a family conversation theme, and we're looking at substance abuse, substance use disorders, substance abuse, addiction, and how that impacts on families and, of course, the support systems in and around the individual or individuals that might have an addiction problem. We're also going to the world of arts and culture with stages, pages, screens, and more. And we're going to catch up with the folks behind Africa Umoja, which is showcasing at the Soweto Theatre as of the 12th of June. And then on the other side of 2 o'clock, on our parenting guide today, we are going to be in conversation with our resident parenting coach, Ayanda Tijani, is going to be joining us. And we'll tell you a bit more about what else is coming up on the other side of 2 in just a moment. It is 30 years of democracy. And of course, we're still casting our eyes on various conversations in and around that. And in light of it being a Pride Month, we're also reflecting on the evolution of the LGBTQI plus community within the context of South Africa. But a lot more coming up after 2, and I'll give you more detail on that closer to the time. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call, and 061 410 4107. When we talk substance abuse, when we talk drug addiction of any kind, there's so many categories of street drugs that are readily available. We do know that a lot of our communities, particularly our black and brown communities, have been plagued and gripped by all kinds of circumstances around this. So if you want to weigh in on the conversation or share your experience as a family member, somebody who supported someone through their journey of drug addiction and ultimately maybe rehab, and what that has looked like and felt like for you as yourself as an individual as well as the family, you are more than welcome to send us a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107 or 086 000 2032.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is the full circle, and we begin the conversation around substance abuse. And we know that it's very much perceived as a personal battle, but it has a rippling effect on not just the family, but as well as a community, particularly in the context of Africans, because we live in community. And so what happens in my neighbors and my friends down the street, the impact of is sometimes felt within various households. And we thought we'd have this conversation today and look at just the many ways that drug and alcohol abuse fracture once upon a time peaceful homes, bringing with them conflict and distrust and all manner of, sort of negative symptoms that come along with dealing with somebody who has a drug and alcohol abuse situation. And we invite you to be a part of the conversation on 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, or 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. And we thought we would have Utabile Ndai, who is a mother to a daughter who I believe is now 19, around about 19, currently in rehab and has had struggles with addiction in recent years. Also joining us on the line is Itumileng Silepe, who is a former addict herself and founder of Word on the Street. How are you doing, guys? Let me start with you, Tabile. Are you good?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great, thank you. I mean, just you yourself sounding like you're very much a young mom, and then obviously dealing with the impact of addiction within your family. Maybe let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your story. Let's start with how things used to be and when things changed.
Okay, so my kids, I've got two girls. My kids were staying with my mom, who passed on in 2020. Then I had to take them, and they moved in with me. At first, everything was okay until we moved to this other small town in the Free State. That's when I noticed a change of behavior on my older daughter. She started with weed. So she says to me, she started with smoking weed, and I was on her case in regards to her smoking weed as a girl. Then she said, can I please take her to the rehab for that, because she can't leave it on her own.
Yeah.
I then took her to a private rehab in Bloemfontein. Well, she came back. She was okay. She was my daughter once again. She was doing well. That was last year when she was doing her matric. Until September last year. That's when everything started changing. The behavior, how she started being untidy, started having short temper. Like, it was a mess with her during that time. And she started sleeping out a lot, talking back at me, such things. That's when I realized that I actually have a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Until I got a visit at my workplace from a lady who was telling me where she was when she disappeared for almost 2 weeks. Then she told me that my daughter is with his son, who is on crystal meth.
Who's on crystal meth?
Who's smoking crystal meth, yes.
Shoo. Yeah, and I was about to actually ask Tabile, because we have a lot of conversations around cannabis, colloquially referred to as weed, for instance, and we have a lot of conversations with activists, with scientists and scholars in the space, and people who advocate for it in very many ways. So I was about to ask, to say, at those beginning stages, are we sure that she was just smoking cannabis, or it was cannabis laced with something else? Did you ever have the conversation with her?
I did, yes. So she said it was weed only at that time. But before she went to the rehab, it was just weed, according to her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by way of the conversation, I mean, I can imagine that once you realize that you have a problem with your teenage daughter, your whole world must have shifted. And how so? How did the world shift and change for you?
I started wondering if I myself was doing something wrong in terms of raising her. I started inviting my colleagues who are male to say, maybe because she doesn't have or she doesn't feel the presence of her father, maybe I should invite a father figure into our space. I started asking a whole lot of people to come and talk to her. Social workers, like I invited a whole lot of people in our space who I think could help, but no, there wasn't any change.
Let's rope in Itumileng into the conversation, who is a former addict herself, having her own struggles with abuse, and then founding Word on the Streets. Oh, sorry, my apologies, Itumileng. I keep referring to you as Itumileng she. Meanwhile, you Itumileng he. How are you doing?
No, I was actually thinking about the whole LGBT month, and I'm like, hey, you can refer as anything.
You took it in your stride to be a they.
I'm like, Bridget is just being cool like that, and then you just be okay. How you doing? Yeah, no, I'm a guy.
I'm great. Thank you so much, Itumileng. Let's start with you. Let's start with your story. Let's start with the beginning, some backgrounds as to who was Itumileng before Itumileng's world changed.
So Itumileng was a champion. Like any other drug addict, anybody who's taking any drugs right now, if I can vouch for it, if I had 2 million rands now and then said call as a parent or as a friend, every drug addict was
Itumileng, let's see if we can't get you on a different line. The line is crackling.
Okay, let me do this now.
Okay, let's have my producers try and switch you. Okay, let's try now. Let's see. Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Thank you so much. So, Itumileng story, I'm a boy from Limpopo. Yeah, who came to Joburg in 2003 to study. And just to keep it simple and short, it just said I got caught up. I got caught up in the lifestyle. What happens is that I love how whoever asking Tabising is busy going about weed and everything. Now, literally, I always tell people that I actually signed the contract. I was introduced to stuff. There's people who I don't have a traumatic past, but I was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So you got caught up in perhaps bad elements, bad life elements, and I don't know. I'm trying to understand. Some folks will go, "What does being caught up mean?" Were you trying to fit in with a particular clique?
No, I didn't even know it. I'm Jimmy comes to Joburg, by the way. You know what it is. It's like you come from a small town, and then Mafuga Josie now it's like the lights and everything. Everything is fast, yeah. And do you know the saying that says if you stick around, if you stick around a barbershop long enough, you're gonna get your hair cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened is that I stuck around with people. I only saw the stuff on Scarface and TV up until I decided to take a line. So now what happened was that, it's a long story short, is that I was so drunk in this pub in Braamfontein in 2004. And then one of my friends, he was actually one of the hotel owners. And then he's like, no, come upstairs and let me show you something. So I went upstairs. When I got there, he took out a mirror and then flashed. Because I started out with cocaine.
Okay.
I'm a student at that time. Yeah. I take the line. I'm telling you, the 10 seconds afterwards, I felt like I could take over the world. Yeah. Like, there is no euphoria that you could feel on that first line. And what happens with the addiction is that you try and chase that after.
Yeah.
You won't get that back.
Okay. Okay. I mean, very interesting. And at that point, you were a student. You were how old?
I was 20.
You were 20 at that point.
Yeah, 20 years old. Yeah, now I'm 40. I'm turning 40.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of your addiction journey for you. So you take that first line at 20, you get that rush, and then you are sort of under the spell of narcotics and cocaine for how many years afterwards?
So what happens is that coming back, remember the high school years, there was also like weed also, right? But if you know, in the beginning of any addiction, you are functional, so that doesn't mean like there's certain drugs you take them and immediately, like after a couple of weeks, they change. But it took me 5 years to be an addict, to depend on the substance.
5 years.
5 years. And then I'm no longer functional. Functional meaning I didn't use it on Monday to Thursday, but on a weekend I'd use. But then now it came where I started losing it.
And at any point in time, Itumeleng, in that sort of 5-year run-up, at any point in time, did you realize that this is developing into a problem? I'm slowly losing control of my ability to control my usage.
No, you don't. That's the thing. Like, just to go back, when you do those things, you sign a contract with the devil, actually. And then one thing I always tell parents, don't have you saying there's nothing wrong with her. She's a praying mom. And with us, like black people, and I want to mention this because I'm sure her daughter went maybe for a 30-day rehab, and like now it's a spiritual attack. If they can't get to her, they'll go to her daughter. Manabare, enemies. Okay, but coming back to what you're saying is that to say quickly is that you don't realize it. You think everything is fine. And I'm married at that time, by the way.
Sure. Okay.
I'm functioning. I think everything is okay.
Let's pause there for a second. 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086 0002032 is the number that you can call us on if you or a family member is currently struggling with addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. How is that impacting your family, the support system and the unit around that individual? What has the journey been like for you as you try and either find some help or you've come to the other side of rehab and you finally, as a family unit now, are finally back on a good path? We'd love to hear from you. But first, Dineo Mudaung is standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 1:30. Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa has resigned. He was given a 30,000 rand bail at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court earlier today. His arrest emanated from his relationship with former EOH executive Jihan McKay, who's alleged to have channeled payments of over 1.6 million rand to him. In other news, the mother of 2 Soshanguve children who were shot and burnt on Sunday evening says she is fearing for her life. And former ANC Treasurer General Dr. Matthew Spoza says if the ANC enters into a coalition with the DA, it risks suffering more losses in the 2026 local government elections. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
We are in conversation with Tabile, who is a mom to a teenage daughter who's currently in rehab, working her steps towards recovery from a drug addiction, and of course, recovering drug addict Itumeleng, who's also the founder of Word on the Street. 086 0002032 and 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. And as I said, recovering drug addict Itumeleng, I wondered, is that the appropriate and acceptable term as it relates to your journey? Because obviously information out there will have us believing that it's a continuous day-to-day journey and you got to work the program every day. So you are never really fully recovered, but you are always in a period of recovery.
Yes, it's it. And then I'm going to say it, and I always say to people that you always get triggered by everything in life. And then what happens is that you know what can make you feel better. Like when I'm Bridget Masinga, something pisses you off, you go for a cheesecake. Now, for me now, I need to cut off that if I get pissed off, I don't go to, like to that extreme. It is like, that's why it's always saying recovering.
Sis Tabile, let's talk about your journey, and apologies for the language there to some of our listeners. Let's talk about your journey with your daughter, because this is something, addiction is something that happens to the person, but it also happens to the family and to the support. You guys were in rehab last year. I'm made to believe that she's in rehab again this year. And how has the journey been for you guys? Because it's so fresh.
Yes, okay. So, realizing that she is now on drugs, which is crystal meth, which is something that she did not go to the rehab for. I then took it to myself that she need to go to the rehab. But remember, according to South African law, one need to consent. One need to volunteer for a government rehab or any other rehab to accept or admit them at the rehabilitation center. Not unless otherwise a person is a danger to themselves or a danger to you people who are living with her. She started living on the streets. She started moving out. She moved out at home. She lived everywhere. She lost her boyfriend through stealing of cables, the guy that she was staying with, and then she started living literally on the streets. I then spoke to her saying that she needs to go to the rehab. We started seeing the social worker who took us at, like we were attending sessions with the social worker. She disappeared. According to South African government and admission of a patient, you need to attend few sessions for them to be sure that indeed she wanna be admitted at the rehabilitation center. So she disappeared along the process. I then spoke about this whole thing on TikTok. That's where people started tagging different kind of rehabilitation centers in Limpopo. I then started calling those rehabilitation centers and I managed to get hold of one. I took her to that rehabilitation center. I left her there. That was not, she did not volunteer. I took her by force. Took her by force to that rehabilitation center. Fine, they admitted her. The only thing they wanted from me is to go to the police station and make a affidavit that I am leaving them with my child.
Yeah.
Yes, I left.
Okay. Let's
as
pause.
soon as I left.
Yes.
So the rehab is illegal. I did not know.
Oh.
Yes, it is illegal. It is not registered. Through desperation, I just dropped her there.
Let's hold it there because I want to come back on the other side of this and find out more about that. But for now, let's go to Tsepo, who is out in the Eastern Cape. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. So both your kids are addicted to a substance.
Yes, both of them. The first one, it was working. He had to lose the job because he couldn't wake up to go to work. He was absent from time to time until they expelled him. Now, he came and said he needs help. So we are struggling to get him the rehab because now the rehabs that we were looking at are very expensive. It's 9,000 per month.
Shoo.
So I'm staying with him now as I'm talking to you. Yes, the other one started when he was 13 years. He's 15 years now.
13?
13 years. He still goes to school, but he is so rebellious. He is so rebellious. I'm listening to Itumele when he was talking about that sometimes it can be a spiritual attack because it's just something else that I don't know. When he insults me, you'll think I'm just somebody that he does not even know. At school, he's just so rebellious. I need help. I don't know. I need help.
Sister, I can hear the heartbreak in your voice. Both your kids and 13 is so young. How are you coping on a day-to-day, having to deal with what's going on with your children?
I think it's by the grace of God because it is not even easy to discipline them. Yes, I can just give you a simple example. Last night, this other one went out, I think, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He came back after 7 o'clock, and I said to him, You said you need help, and when you are here at home, we are expecting you to be here at home before 6 so that we can be together in prayer and in dinner. But you seem to be defaulting all the times. He was so rebellious. I did not understand. But I'm just giving a glimpse of there's a lot that is going on.
Yeah.
However, I'm just trusting in the Lord. I'm just appealing for assistance. I don't know how.
Yeah. Sister Tsepo, thank you for sharing your story, and hopefully it lands on some nurturing ears today, and someone somewhere would have the ability to offer you some help. That was Sister Tsepo out in the Eastern Cape. We've got Paul in Bloom. How are you, Paul?
Fine, and yourself, Bridget?
I'm all right, thank you. Go ahead.
Bridget, we do have a problem with our youth of today. The reason why I say so, during my juvenile, we had a discipline that anyone can discipline you on the road. Now, today, the government took over our children. I'm not saying that we have to abuse our children, no. But the thing is, this program now you are talking about, how many people that are juveniles, they are listening to this program? Maybe 2 or 3. You understand? The higher number is only grown-ups. So I think if the government can implement a tour school to people that are in drugs, to see those kids, they must see what is happening on drugs. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because just
thank you, Paul in
it
Bloemfontein. I think we get the gist of your commentary. Thank you, Paul. We just want to get to our other callers and, of course, WhatsApp as well. 086 000 2032, 061 410 4107, as we have a conversation around addiction. If you and your family are struggling with a family member or loved one that is addicted to some sort of substance, whether it be alcohol addiction or some kind of street drug addiction, and you're having to deal with this within your household, we'd love to hear from you today. It is a safe space, as you've heard. You heard Sis Tsepo out in the Eastern Cape with both of her kids. You could hear the pain in her voice and the hurt in her voice, holding back tears with both of her children as young as 13 years old, one of her sons addicted to street drugs. And of course, our guest Tabile, who is a mom of a teenage daughter, is currently in rehab with her drug addiction, and a recovering addict, Itumeleng, also joining us in this conversation. Let us go to WhatsApp, and then we will come back and try and fit in as much of you as possible.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
It's anonymous. I have to agree fully. It always starts with, for my case, it was cigarettes, and cigarettes went to weed, and weed, meeting a group of friends in high school, in university. Started with that first line of coke, and then from coke, it went to crack cocaine. And I don't want to lie, you can't tell when you feel that it's out of control. You just feel like, you tell yourself, I'm stopping, or I'm going to lower it down a bit. but you can never tell if you're losing control. And then obviously the rest follows through. Family, friends leave you. Currently, I'm paying the price for it. I'm destitute, no family, no friends, and I just feel like I never can recover. Tried everything, nothing really works.
Good afternoon, and thanks for a great show. I think it's something that's not spoken a lot about. So I was a heroin addict for 15 years. This year, I'm proud to say by the grace of God, I've been clean for 11. I was in about 13 or 14 rehabs, I think. I lost count. And I worked the steps, and I'm not saying it doesn't work for other people, but it didn't work for me. What worked for me was I got to a point in my life where I was sitting on a bed in a rehab, and I said, now I've had enough. And I made the conscious decision inside to stop. And something changed. It was like something just changed inside of me, and I just stopped. There's been ample opportunity to use since that again, but that desire has just been gone. That's just been taken away from me, which is a fantastic feeling. So it's a difficult road, but it's doable. I think you've got to be deadly honest with yourself with regards to certain things, and love yourself. I'm not one of those guys who would want to go through life getting up every morning and fighting a battle and thinking, geez, I'd love to use today and life is so bad because I can't use. I would rather be set free, and that's what happened to me. I was set free. If there's anybody who needs help, you can obviously imagine through all the years of trying, I've built up contacts of people we can get in touch with, and they're more than welcome to contact me. Thank you.
And that is why we do these shows, so that we can come together as community and open each other's hearts and extend each other to strangers, virtual strangers who need your help, who are on a journey similar to yours, or are traveling a road that you've traveled before. And if you think so, we are definitely are going to try and link up some of specifically this last voice note, perhaps with Mam Tepo there, and see if there's any help. But he says, Itumeleng, and I want to throw this at you quickly. This last voice note, he says that he was in and out of rehab. He lost count 13, 14 times. But he said it got to a point where he had to make the decision that it was enough. Would you say a similar point arrived in your journey? When did you decide that actually I want to find help, I want to come clean?
No, I actually didn't take the decision. And then this is one of the worst things. And then the co-speaker is also saying is that now I didn't want to stop. So now I'm at rehab. The guy who said, and then sorry if I'm offending you. I know this is your journey, but when you say 14 or 15 times. What we do there is that they give you like a 28-day program. Do you know this is a habit? You don't lose that habit in 28 days. So now with me, I'm talking about me. I had to be chained up.
Mm-hmm.
I was never gonna leave drugs. I had to be put in chains, going to the bathroom in chains, and I just want to apologize for my language earlier on.
Yeah, that's fine.
I went to the bathroom, I went to wherever and whatever I did. But 8 years later, I'm grateful for where I am. Mama said, no, it's illegal, but so like black parents are going through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are sabotaging. I got a call yesterday, just before the show, where the mom is saying, this guy is trying to kick in the door, he's trying to rape me again. Because I don't want to give him $50 for a hit. This thing is serious. Like, this show needs its own show.
Yeah.
Like, I can go on, yes. But with me is that I'm not going to blame him for 14 or 15. 29,000, 9,000, people can't even afford to buy a card. But what I'm saying is that now with me, people can reach out. But it's please, when you call me, it's not going to be easy.
Okay.
I come there. And then I'm 8 years now, get sharp.
Okay. Let's pause there and throw to Pastor Masinga, who himself has traveled this journey of addiction. How are you doing?
Hi, good day. Maybe to can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, not to correct, I have not been in drugs, but we have some family members who experienced a similar situation. There are two cases. One was able to be set free from the addiction. The other one is still struggling. But let me tell you something, Kathy. One thing as a nation, we don't want to admit it. We don't want to be honest with ourselves. And we are seeing it happening over our young people. We have rejected God as a nation. That is status. I will tell you now, when we rejected prayer in schools, when we grew up, if you look at the trend, when we grew up, the children who grew up in the early ages before we have the democracy, we had more discipline in terms of young people, and schools had prayer. There was a set way of doing things.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Pastor. I think we lost Pastor there. Let's quickly jump to Stephen in Durban. Stephen?
Yes, how's it going?
We're good, man. We're good. And you?
Yeah, great. Look, I was also, I was an addict for a long time. It came from bad childhood choices, all sorts of patterns that I saw, coping mechanisms, etc., etc. Everyone's got a sort of excuse or an explanation why they can have these things. And, it's very dangerous to even go there. Even the earlier caller spoke about, it starts with a cigarette, then it goes to weed, and it just progresses and progresses. And, personally, it was a relationship with the person of Jesus that actually saved me and made me recognize and realize what my identity was. And then, in Proverbs it says, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty comes on you like an armed man. Hardship.
Yeah.
If you let your guard down, we have an enemy that is roaming around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So we need to be on our guard about. It's small things. It's anything. If it's pornography, if it's drugs, if it's anything that is against who we actually created to be, you're going to worship something. You're going to be on your knees. You can be on your knees groveling around looking for your next fix.
Yeah.
You can be on your knees in the throne room of God.
Got you. Thank you so much for sharing, Stephen. Sis Tabile, you are here. And by the way, I will ask my producers to share. There are one or two of our listeners on WhatsApp that would like to reach out. And I think they might have some ideas around resources that could be available for yourself, as well as Sis Tepo out in the Eastern Cape. But let's talk about quickly, Uguti, how are you moving today? How are you moving today? How are you feeling about your child's future, and of course, by extension, the future of your family as of today?
Currently, as she is at the rehab, I am planning to reach out to a program. It is called Aftercare. Yes, Aftercare. Rehab Aftercare. So we will be attending the Rehab Aftercare together as a family with my younger one. I don't know how long it takes. Even if it takes longer, we will attend it. And then also, we spoke. I am going to prepare and register her for a driver's license. When she is back, she will keep busy with a driver's license, and then next year she will rewrite her matric and then go to the varsity, which I fear because she will be away from me. But I will give her a benefit of a doubt.
And I mean, beyond aftercare, are you getting any kind of support from the rest of your family? Are they understanding of where you find yourself right now?
Well, my siblings, really, they are not interested in being part of this whole thing. But I have a grandmother who says she wanna take my daughter and stay with her. But my daughter doesn't wanna go there. My fear is forcing her doing it. So I will let her stay with me, and we'll go through the journey together.
Yeah. We wish you the very best of luck. And I know there was so much more to discuss, but it's such an emotive conversation, this, because it's so personal to so many people that we've just fast run out of time. But our prayers go out to you and your daughter. May she get a handle on her life. And may you find strength and support, as well as to Mam Tsepo out in the Eastern Cape. We will read through some of our guests who have said that we must put them in contact with you, and we will share those contact details, and hopefully the two families find the much needed help that they desire. Itumeleng Selepe, thank you so much for joining us, and we will also share Itumeleng's organization details with anybody who wants them, founder of Word on the Street, and that is how we close on this conversation. Kids Corner coming right up.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hi, my name is Gabby Maya. I go to Brackenhurst Primary School. I am in grade 4, and what I'm going to be talking about is how I get nervous. When I get nervous is when I have to talk or sing out in front of a lot of people, including when I don't know how to do it. And how I manage it is when I close my eyes and just start singing. At the end, I will get the result. Then, I don't get nervous when I talk to my teachers because I know them since I started school. And then, how I would advise someone to not get nervous is when I tell them, just pretend there's no one there, believe in yourself, and just do it. Then you get the results.
Hello, my name is Yara Ella. I'm 9 years old and I go to St. Martin's School. Something that makes me feel nervous is probably when I have something like a speech or a show and tell or a match. I get really nervous. I manage when I get nervous. When I drink water. For an example, today I have a match and I'm very nervous, but all my friends are talking to me and I'm drinking lots of water, so it makes me feel better. Yes, I do feel nervous when I have to speak to my teachers because I feel like they're going to shout at me. When I have to do a speech in front of my class, I get really bad anxiety because I feel like people are going to bully me.
Hello, my name is Nawa Sumalane. I'm 9 years old and I am from St. Martin's. Something that makes me feel nervous is when I tell my crush something and they refuse to tell me. Okay. Or when I ask a teacher a question and they are they're teaching on the board, and when I say my speech in front of the class, it's kind of embarrassing.
Why though?
It's embarrassing because everybody is staring at you. And after that, the people clap for you and you walk weirdly and your friends still stare at you when you walk to your seats. And it's embarrassing. I managed that by putting my hand on my head and doing this so nobody sees me. When I do a speech or a show and tell, I feel, if it's like an easy speech, I feel fine. But if it's like a long speech, then I feel like nervous and scared if I get like a bad mark for my speech. If you ever feel nervous, you can tell a teacher that if you can go last and just take deep breaths in and out to calm yourself down. Or you can drink water. Nervous is kind of a bad thing because nervous is basically negativity, and it can make you feel bad about something. If you're nervous to tell something to somebody, you should always be positive and to tell them something, not to be nervous. Thank you.
My name is Cecilia and I'm 8 years old and I go to St. Martin's School. Something that I am nervous about is when I go to school, when I get in trouble and I don't do my homework, is when I'm nervous. And when I go to a netball match or anything, then I'm very nervous. How I manage my nervousness is because when my friends calm me down, or I just warm up and then I feel better. When I have to talk to my teacher, I am a little bit nervous, but I still go up and do it. Yes, I'm very nervous when I'm doing a show and tell or something when you're presenting to your class. I'm very scared, nervous. I think feeling nervous is a good thing.
Hello there! Today let's have a chat about emotions, specifically about feeling nervous. We all experience nervousness at times, whether it's before a big test, a school performance, or meeting new people. It's completely normal. Nervousness is an emotion that arises when we feel uncertain or worried about something. It's our body's way of preparing for a challenge. You might notice butterflies in your stomach, a faster heartbeat, or sweaty hands. When you feel nervous, it can be helpful to understand why. Usually it means that something important is happening that you genuinely care about doing well. That's a good thing. However, feeling excessively nervous can make it difficult to perform at your best. So what can you do to manage those feelings? One fantastic technique is to take deep breaths. Breathing slowly and deeply can help calm both your body and mind. Inhale through your nose, hold it in for a few seconds, and then exhale slowly through your mouth. It will definitely make you feel better. Another helpful tip is to focus on positive thoughts. Instead of dwelling on what could go wrong, try envisioning what could go right. Remind yourself of past successes and reassure yourself that you are capable. Additionally, talking to someone you trust like your parents, teacher, or a friend can be beneficial. Sharing your feelings can make your nervousness feel smaller and more manageable. Lastly, practice makes perfect. If you're nervous about a test, practicing what you've learned can boost your confidence. If it's a performance, rehearsing your part can make you feel more at ease. Remember, it's okay to feel nervous. Everyone experiences it. The important thing is to find ways to help yourself feel better and keep moving forward. You all have incredible potential, and a little nervousness won't hinder you from achieving your goals.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Top story, Sports Minister Zizi-Kodwa resigns and Matthews Phosa cautions against a DA-ANC coalition. With the news, I am Dineo Mutaung. Good afternoon. Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi-Kodwa has resigned from his position with immediate effect following corruption charges against him. Kodwa appeared before the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court on charges of contravening the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act and the Prevention of Organized Crimes Act. This in relation to the recommendations against him in the state capture report and corruption allegations in connection to bribery amounting to 1.6 million. A statement from the department says Kodwa has informed President Cyril Ramaphosa. Meanwhile, ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bengumudziri says the party's constitution will kick in on such matters.
All I can say is that we've noted that the step-aside policy of the ANC will kick in, or shall I say the constitution of the ANC will kick in, because we respect the rule of law, and I suppose there's really no question about that.
In other news, the mother of two Soshanguve children who were shot and burned on Sunday evening says she's fearing for her life. Denyeko and Fumo Mashaba, aged 4 and 7, were shot multiple times by an unknown man who allegedly stormed their home at Changing Sport Informal Settlement while sleeping. Preliminary police investigations suggest that the suspects were after the children's father, who was not at home during the incident. Last month, a 5-year-old boy was killed during a hijacking incident in Soshanguve. The mother of the girls, Itumeleng Mashaba, says she had quickly gone to her neighbors when she heard gunshots. Meanwhile, police are on a manhunt for the suspects who allegedly shot 6 people, killing 2 at a nearby Shabin area. Mashaba says she's frightened.
Even me, I'm not safe. Like, I don't sleep. I always think like maybe he will come to me and finish what he started, because he asked for their parents before he shot. I'm not safe. Like, tomorrow there's gonna be a candle lighting for my daughters, and we are not safe. Like, I'm not saying we are not safe. I'm not safe. I don't think I will be able to go there, because I don't know if ever the person is gonna wait for me or what.
We shift gear now to some election news. Former ANC Treasurer General Dr. Matthews Phosa says if the ANC enters into a coalition with the DA, it risks suffering more losses in the 2026 local government elections. For the first time in 30 years, the ANC failed to obtain a majority to form a government. Phosa says an arrangement with the DA will only appease business while compromising the masses. He has given a few scenarios for consideration.
This party needs one another to elect one president very soon. And they must all bring their vote to support that president, to support that speaker. So if you ask me what is my favorite choice for the ANC, is IFP and EFF. Or also, in addition, former liberation movements which are in the basket. I don't think the ANC should principally anchor itself for the DA. I'm against that.
Lastly, South Korea says it's detected North Korea demolishing sections of a railway built to connect the two countries. North Korea sent hundreds of balloons carrying trash over the border to South Korea last week. The BBC's Celia Harton reports.
The Inter-Korean Railway was heralded as a clear step towards peace between the Koreas when it was unveiled in the year 2000, allowing train travel across their heavily fortified border. But since then, relations have deteriorated. Pyongyang has taken steps to eliminate connections after declaring several months ago that Korean reunification was no longer a goal.
Recapping the top story this hour, Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa has resigned from his position with immediate effect following corruption charges against him. Headlines at 2:30 for SAFM News. I am Dino Mutaung.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
What would I do without your smart mouth? Drawing me in and you kicking me out. You got my head spinning, no kidding. I can't pin you down. What's going on in that beautiful mind? I'm on your magical mystery ride, and I'm so dizzy, don't know what hit me, but I'll be alright. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning, 'cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, how many times do I have to tell you? Even when you're crying, you're beautiful too. The world is beating you down. I'm around through every mood. You're my downfall, you're my distraction, my rhythm and blues. I can't stop singing, it's ringing in my head for you. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind. 'Cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning. 'Cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, give me all of you. Cards on the table, we're both showing hearts, risking it, although it's hard. 'Cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning. 'Cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. I give you all of me, and you give me all.
It is John Legend coming through with Stay With Me. And of course, it is the second hour of the show, and we're hoping that you are still staying with us as we slowly but surely make our way to finishing the final hour of the show. All of Me is the name. Yeah, All of Me. Apologies. I don't know. My eyes went to the typo that was there. All of Me is the name of the song. In fact, I was wondering why my team is giggling in the background. All right. So in the second hour, we're still continuing with the family theme, and we're looking at talking to our parenting coach, Ayanda Tijani, and we're going to have a conversation around your children's refusal to attend school. For a variety of reasons, I guess this could be an issue within your household, including the conversation that we just had in the first hour around substance abuse. And Ayanda has got all the tools and all the necessary advice that one requires if you are faced with this kind of challenge in your household. How are you doing this afternoon? Ayanda?
Can you hear me?
And now I can. How are you?
Oh, I'm awesome. Thank you. And hi to all of your listeners as well. I'm great. Thanks.
Thank you for taking the time. So, you know, this is obviously something that's of concern in our communities because we do hear the Department of Basic Education talk around this from time to time, particularly when it's around about matric results time and they talk about children, who've absconded from school or dropped out of school for a variety of reasons. And in part, it speaks to kids who are refusing to get into the schooling system because there is that category of kids as well who it's not necessarily circumstance that has led them to not going to school, but they just, some social conditioning has them thinking that they don't want to go to school.
Yeah. Look, unfortunately, I do work with a lot of communities, support groups, where we do have these kind of situations. Usually, it actually starts with something as little as just struggling with a particular subject, which it then enhances a child's self-esteem issues, their confidence, and then they just feel like that place in terms of the school environment is not the place for them. I'm using this one environmental issue, not counting the many other issues where, there's divorce issues, there's mental health issues and all of that.
Mm.
But what really, it's obviously very important for us to understand that we need skills and we need these competencies in order for us to be able to work, in order for us to be contributing members of the community, the society. Unfortunately, in South Africa, we don't have too many resources available of alternative ways in which people can be put into the system, So it's so scary, actually, if you think about just the stats in terms of how many children actually go into the schooling system, your grade 8, and how many actually come out in the matric results and stuff like that. It's really quite scary. And if you look at like a minimum wage, all of those things. So it's something that as parents we really need to be constantly thinking about. But also now the question is, how do you deal with the situation where your child, by taking them back to school, their confidence is becoming less and less. You can just see them deteriorating. And then at the same time, you want all this bright future for them. You want all this, you have all these dreams, obviously. We invest so much in our children. So I work with a couple of clients where we try to look at really alternative ways in which we can help these children. And usually what I do is I focus on the type of skills that we can try to get these children to learn, whether it's looking at mentoring, working in computer shops, depending on the type of skills that they have.
Yeah.
But really, sometimes thinking out the box is very important, because if you think about the different situations, let's say, for instance, the child is being bullied at school.
Yeah.
Then the school is not a safe environment for you to keep putting your child back there, forcing them to just say you're going to have a brighter future. It becomes really hard. And to be honest, our children are not as resilient as we were back then. I mean, you could think about how many times we were teased and all of that, and we just kept going. And it differs for all of us, in terms of just the long-term side effects. Our children are probably more in touch with their feelings, and they're able to say, now, that's not a great environment for me, and I don't want to go back there anymore. But the reality is, in our communities, we don't have a lot of alternative learning type of environments where we can say, okay, maybe you are more talented in soccer, you're more talented in art, let's find you that kind of revenue, to find them and fine-tune your skills and your... Yeah.
And I mean, I guess this is a conversation that we need to have very honestly as a community and families, because as you're talking now, I'm thinking socially we're socialized to accept that we must all walk the same path. But we are also now awakening as a generation, and I think, millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Xs more so, there's now this awakening that not everybody's path looks the same, and not everybody's route to what you perceive as a successful, well-adjusted, educated adult necessarily responds to the traditional ways of doing things, if I make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the problem. And then obviously, if you are also having your own challenges in terms of just trying to figure out your own career, it becomes very hard to say, what's this alternative? But the reality is there are so many options. As I'm saying, I do work with some children who have dropped out, even because of just really poor grades. But for me, Bridget, my concern is always, okay, your child is struggling in this particular grade, and not just one grade, probably all of the grades, and they're doing really badly. They're being teased by everyone at school, and you just keep taking them back into that environment. Is that a healthy way for you to say, whatever you're doing, let's say you're going to work, and you're thinking about your child in that environment, is that healthy? Is it healthy for you? Is it healthy for your child? And then when I usually work with my parents, we look at alternatives. We look at mentoring. We look at the type of things that the child is passionate about, and look at doing those type of things and finding a way for them to build like a solid skill, which is very, very alternative. To be honest with you, I actually find it very hard as well, because in most of the instances, I work with parents who are so distraught in terms of, the children have been removed from so many of the different schools that have tried. It's usually like a last resort.
Yeah.
But I really wish we could start being more observant of our children when they're having these problems, so that we can almost identify them early, look for alternatives early. And for me, it's just the self-confidence. Every day you're going back to that environment, it's chipping away at you. And it's going to take a lifetime of therapy to fix that. So we really need to start thinking outside the box.
Maybe let's hone in on that as well, Ayanda. When you say that parents need to be more observant, right? And be more aware. And now you're sitting with mom and dad. Already they're on the defensive at the beginning of this conversation because they're like, Ayanda and Bridget, you're like back again with this whole new age parenting things. You know what I mean? But let's talk about what that might look like when you start realizing that your child is not necessarily getting the best out of the traditional schooling system. Because it's not just a day or two of bunking school and missing school that we're talking about here. It's not just a bad day at school today because you had a run-in with the bully today, or it's more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say when we're talking parenting, what's really important in terms of just this environment that we're trying to create. So when your child has that first bad grade or bad report, and a lot of us are going to be getting that in a couple of weeks, you want to be able to sit down with your child, not only looking from a perspective of their report, but also going through their schoolwork to see, is there something that's fixable? Look within the networks that we have, our social networks. Can you get a tutor? Sometimes you don't even have to pay the tutors. You can do some type of bartering to try and help this child. So say you've done those things, Bridget, and now you're seeing that, listen, you've gotten the tutors, you've tried all of these things. This child's grades are really not improving. What I usually say to my parents is that you want to find something that your child does that they love. You know the kind of thing that when you're doing, you are in your zone. It doesn't matter how bad the whole world is going to,
yeah.
But you're just loving that. And if you can help your child find something like that, and then a passion and interest, and then work around trying to help them with the other stuff, and usually having like someone who's a professional can really help, an educational psychologist. Also, obviously checking the child in terms of, are they actually having serious issues in terms of just learning? Is there a mental issue? And then start really working around, okay, what else can we do now? What are the available avenues in terms of skills, in terms of things? There's so many, look at these children who are influencers today. They are making a fortune, for instance, in terms of just the kind of work they do online, gaming. There's so many other options. But we do have to not just think about walking this thin line, because it's really not for all of us, unfortunately.
Yeah, you just threw another spanner in the works. I'm trying to get you to win over the hearts of mom and dad that might be listening and they might be identifying. Then you throw in influencer and then you lost them all over again. Let's take a quick break here and then we'll come right back and continue this conversation.
Mama Kitty, I heard Rand Water talking on the radio about how dangerous it is for people to encroach on their pipeline servitude.
Yes, those high-pressure Rand Water pipelines are under the ground distributing megaliters of water. When people build on top of the pipeline, Rand Water is unable to conduct maintenance on the pipeline, which has a negative impact on water provision. Pipelines can burst without warning. People could get seriously injured or worse.
Yes, people can die from a bursting pipe. That is why people need to understand that Rand Water servitude is where a Rand Water pipeline is located. If we build our houses or businesses on a Rand Water servitude, then we are encroaching on that servitude. They say if communities want to know whether they've encroached over servitudes, they should look for the Rand Water beacons.
The beacons indicate the presence of Rand Water pipelines under the ground. They're rectangular, made of concrete, are painted either white or blue, and have the Rand Water logo on them.
Let's take a walk around our area to see if there are any Rand Water beacons so that we can also tell the neighbors.
Rand Water, celebrating 120 years of existence and still finding new ways to provide clean, portable bulk water.
EFC is live this Thursday. Two of the most thrilling fighting talents to have emerged from the Mother City in recent years, Tamelo Manyamala and Terrence Bolelo, put everything on the line to face each other for the interim flyweight title, which guarantees a shot against the currently unavailable champion Nkazimulu Zulu later in the year. Also, Ayanda Zwane and Sibarashe Akonya fight for #1 contendership. EFC 114 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
What do you think the ANC should do? I mean, should it go with the EFF or MK? Should it go in another direction? What do you think should happen next?
It's not so simplistic, Stephen. I don't believe in coalitions. They're like jellyfish. I believe in a government of national unity. I don't think anyone should say any party is irrelevant. All the parties are relevant. They represent South Africans. Politics is the art of the possible, Stephen, and it's about interest. If the ANC went into a coalition with the DA now, the ANC can kiss the local government elections in the next 18 months goodbye.
Dr. Matthews Pauser, of course, have played a very long role in the ANC and in our fight for liberation.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m. You are listening to The Full Circle.
We're in conversation with resident parenting coach Ayanda Tijani, and we're talking around kids who are refusing to go to school, teenagers who might have some kind of school phobia or school avoidance for a whole host of social reasons that might be coming into play there. And we're trying to figure out if you think that, this is something that perhaps is happening in your household or within your family, what can be done. And let's look at, we've touched a little bit in terms of how mom and dad and guardians should be thinking outside of the box. But before we get to thinking outside of the box, right, it's about dealing with the situation that we have at hand and getting to grips with it and accepting it as, we're going to try and get Ayanda back on the line. And it's about getting to grips with it and getting to acceptance with it, because it is a precarious situation for any parent to find themselves in. When you realize that your kid, for one or another reason, doesn't enjoy or doesn't want to go to school. So there's a point of mom and dad also traveling and trying to find some kind of acceptance that it's not going to happen that way.
Yeah. I just over the break, I got so many messages of parents thinking that. So I want to clarify. I'm not saying that if your child is struggling with school, the first thing you do, you just have them drop out of school. No. The future potential is dire if, we don't have matric. We know that in this country. But what we're saying is in situations where your child is struggling and you have tried your level best, you have given them the support, you have tried. Even the teachers, the principal have put in that effort, and you see that this child is really not cut out for this. Then that is a situation where you start looking for alternatives, and as hard as it is, because we are in a situation where within this country we don't have a lot of alternatives, you really need to think out of the box in terms of getting that support and getting that help for your child. So I'll make an example. One of the parents that I work with in Sosha, the child just wanted to drop out of school. They actually believed that they were going to be a fashion designer, and they were just absolutely amazing. You can imagine. And he was in grade 10. And one of the things after doing a whole lot of work, what we did with the parents is to get the child to volunteer with a seamstress, okay? And one of the conversations we have with the lady who manages a seamstress tailor business, she's very strict with this child. We wanted him to get the experience of does it look like to actually work. I'm telling you, 2 years later, this young man has gone back to school. He's the oldest in his class. There's still a little bit of teasing happening as a result of that. But because of the experience that he had, having to work at such an early age and almost being responsible and taking accountability for his decision to leave school, when he went back to school now, he has a different commitment towards his schoolwork. His parents don't have to check his schoolwork anymore. He's really putting in the effort. So you can see that if something happened in this independent situation of his, where he realized that this might not be the way that he wanted. And unfortunately, I think for him, if they had gone a different route, it would have gone very bad, because at this point he was bunking, not sleeping at home, running away. There was just a lot of things happening. But when they forced him to be accountable, and take responsibility for his actions, in that they got him a job and he almost had to move out into the back room, take care of himself at a very young age, it hit him how hard life is without. And also seeing his friends now, almost this is their last year, they're going to matric. It just changed everything for him. So, you can have those kind of situations, but for me, just thinking out of the box says there's so many opportunities. One thing that we don't realize is more than this actual school, and this is why we're finding a lot of people who are unemployed, unskilled, is that what we're looking at when we talk about a matric is, let's talk about skills. What skills do you have? What skills are relevant for today in terms of the world that we're living in? And let's be realistic. There's so many opportunities as well to go all over the world. You can look at crews working, those gap years. There's so many opportunities, but obviously this is also age dependent.
Absolutely.
But for me, what's important is to continuously have these conversations with our children, allow our children to try things, allow them to burn their own fingers, always be that warm, accommodating, but whatever decisions they make, if they're not really they're not able to come up with results, have them be accountable. When they burn their own fingers within the safety net that you have for them, they will really start to think about their lives and really put more effort in whatever they're doing.
We have to wrap it there for this afternoon, but I think what I take away from the conversation is parent with an openness and a compassion for your child's lived experience, and try collectively as a family to try and figure out innovative ways to tackle the challenge that you are confronted with, and not just to the school refusing conversation, but to every parenting challenge. So try and figure out what might and might not work for your child in order to help them along on this journey. That was Ayanda Tijani, who's our resident parenting coach. Dineo is coming through with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 2:30. Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa has resigned from his position with immediate effect following corruption charges against him. In other news, Kokta Minister Thembisile Simelane Nkadimeng and Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane are currently visiting flood-damaged parts in Kariga, and water utility Randwater says it will be embarking on an extensive maintenance plan of its infrastructure from the 22nd of this month to the 29th of July. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Stages, pages, screens and more with Bridget Masinga.
So we are catching up with the co-founder, director and choreographer of Africa Umoja for Stages, Pages, Screens and More. And it is set to be at the Soweto Theatre come the 12th of June. How are you doing, Todd?
I'm fine, thanks. And how are you, Bridget?
I'm fabulous. Todd Twala is joining me on the line now. Can I just admit this as a side note, Todd? Today, everybody's names and genders are giving me they, them. Like very non-binary today. I'm loving it. Considering that we are in Pride Month, so maybe there's something to be said there. Africa Umoja is set to open at the Soweto Theatre come the 12th of June. Tell me a bit, because we see the posters, right? This is not the first iteration of Africa Umoja. I'm pretty sure through the years I've seen billboards.
Yes. Oh, I'd like to greet your listeners and everybody in South Africa and all over the world that are listening to your radio. Yeah, they show on the 12th next week. Actually, it's not like it's not a tour. It's just a show that has been decided by precious gems that they want to, do a show for Thembi and Todd. It's like an appreciation show, to say thank you for what we have done, me and Thembi. Otherwise, we will be taking a tour sometime next year around the country, South Africa. We will be going to all the provinces. So this show is a particularly show for Thembi and Todd. We are being celebrated.
I see. We love it when thespians honor thespians. Give folks a history, because you guys are a theatre title that a lot of people recognize, Africa Umoja. But give us the genesis of the history of this particular production. Okay.
Let's just start by saying, me and Thembi, we've been in show business for some time. So from as early as let me talk about myself. I started show business when I was only 19 years old, 1974.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I became a teenage mother and I had to do something to take care of my child. Anyway, I started with Imirupa. It's one of the biggest productions to come from South Africa under the leadership of Victor Ntoni and Joan Brickelberg. It went to London 1974, and Mirupa went to London 1974, and we got an opportunity to perform for Queen Elizabeth at the Royal Command Performance, which is a performance that takes place every year, once a year, for the Queen of England. So fortunately, when we were there was a show that already has been chosen. It was called Black Mikado. But until Mirupa came in, because we're a strict, an all African show, everything from, yes. Then they changed, they said they rather prefer Mirupa to come and take a place in the Royal Command Performance. And that time we did the show, it was 1975 or 4, somewhere there. And the show was a great success. And then we performed for the Queen. And the show did so well. When it closed, fortunately, Bertha Egnos, who was doing Pintombi that time, had seen me on the show. Then he invited me, said, please come and join Ipintombi. Then I joined Ipintombi in 1977.
Got you.
After when we got to London, when we got back from London.
I feel as if your history, Mom Todd, is a show all on its own. Because from 1974-75 until today, that's a good couple of decades of you, and your team gracing stages.
Yeah, to cut the long story short, Bridget, because otherwise we need the whole week for me to tell you.
Mom Todd? Hello? Oh, we've lost Mum Todd there, and we're going to try and get her back. But we're also going to have a conversation now with filmmaker and LGBTQ plus activist Bev Ditsi is joining me in studio, and of course Virginia Magwaza also joining through. Maybe Mom Todd. Okay, let's fast forward to Africa Umoja, which is now at Soweto Theatre, because I can see my next guest is also going to battle down any second. It's at Soweto Theatre on the 12th. You say this is an appreciation show. It's not the full tour. What can people expect then from this edition?
It's a very special show. They'll enjoy to see the original people of Umoja, most of the kids that we started with in 2000 who launched the show. Some of them, it's a mixture of all the companies of the casts of Ipintombi, because we had about 3 or 4 casts, I'm sure. So, and Umoja is, there've been so many kids who've been through this project, I'm sure thousands, if I'm not mistaken, because, they would come work, and the next thing they get other opportunities, they move on, the other one takes over. It's been like a rotating event for Umoja. And so now you'll see the mixture of all the casts of Umoja performing on the 3rd, on the 12th, next week, Wednesday.
I see. And I mean, it's sort of going to be a nice journey down memory lane. Is it a one-day only event, or is it going to just one day?
Yeah, it's one day event, and then but we're preparing a tour. That is, we're going to take a tour early next year or late this year.
Okay.
We're still preparing. Yeah, we're going to tour the country because we've never toured the whole country.
Yes.
We've been all over the world, but we've never toured our own country. So we'll be going, let's say, to Kimberley, Cape Town, the whole 9 provinces. So we'll be touring them.
Okay.
And the nice thing about it, Bridget, let me just be quick. I know you need your space. The nice thing about this tour, it's going to be like when we get to Kimberley.
Yes.
Umoja will do a story about what is prominent in Kimberley, like diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
How come the diamonds came on? When we go to Eastern Cape, we'll do whatever, all these provinces, whatever was prominent in that province. We just to educate the youth of that province, because most of the time our kids don't know what's going on.
Absolutely. I think I'm a little bit bummed because it's one day only. I feel like, we could have had a whole week of this appreciation show, but definitely 12th of June is the date for anybody to put down in your calendar at the Soweto Theatre for Africa Umoja. And it's an appreciation for the efforts and the visionaries that are behind this production, Umam Tembi Nyadeni, and of course Mom Todd Twala. One day only, but next year we'll have them back again and we'll have more time and we'll talk about the full history of the tour as well as your journey and your life within dance and on stage. For today, though, let's leave it there. We appreciate the time with you, Mom Todd Twala, and have an incredible celebration come the 12th of June. Let's take a quick pause and then allow Bev to come through the doors.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
She is joining me in studio and she's live on her Instagram, by the way. So you can catch every angle of Bev Ditsi. She needs no introduction. She is quite the accomplished filmmaker and storyteller. She has an honorary doctorate too, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have an honorary doctorate from University in California in the US.
Yes. Listen, we had this whole discourse about the doctors on the show earlier on. So now we were set straight to say, please, all the academics, they were like, please call the doctors in the respective campuses.
Yes, please.
And then when you have them on the shows, please can you call them by their names?
Yes, please. Now, listen, I understand this totally. I have friends who are struggling through their PhDs.
Yeah.
It's no joke going through a PhD.
Yeah.
People are losing their minds going through a PhD.
Right?
So I have such respect for a PhD. I don't just go around throwing this doctor name. I respect it because I acknowledge the acknowledgement.
There we go.
There it is.
And of course, it is Pride Month today, and we have Bev in studio to talk and reflect back on, just the gains and life for the community, LGBTQI plus community in South Africa and on the continent. And we've got Peacewith Makuba, who is with Iranti. Is it Iranti?
It's Iranti.
What is Iranti?
Iranti.
Because Peacewith is your guest.
Iranti is a queer organization that focuses a lot on advocacy, but also education, particularly in media, on language, on making sure that people are not misgendered, on making sure that people understand the pronouns and the LGBTIQA plus and what all this is about. So they give out a lot of information. They make films, short films. They're an advocacy and media organization.
Awesome. Peacewith, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And how are you?
I'm great. Say hi to Bev.
Hey, fam. How you doing?
Hello, Dr. Bev. I'm good. How are you, fam?
Good.
Peacewith, I think we'll jump you in right there because, I was joking earlier with Mom Todd to say that today all my guest names have been the exact opposite of the gender that in my mind I had assigned. And I think it's something that even with a lot of our listeners, sort of the conversation around languaging as it pertains to gender, it still elicits a lot of passion. We see it on the WhatsApp lines whenever we have these conversations. So on the ground, Peacewith, with the work that you guys do, what kind of sort of feedback or conversation are you hearing coming from general South Africans around the conversation of languaging and gender?
Thank you for the question. Well, it varies between, I guess, where you are and the age group you're speaking to. Most of the time, people are very accepting and they're very open and allowing of the change and the diversity within that communication. However, others are still like, no, I'm just going to stick to what I know, and that is enough for me. So it just depends who you're speaking to and where you are. For example, the pronoun language is very strong with the youth, but the older generations are just like, I don't think I'm going to remember that, so I'd rather just stick to this and that. So it is an ongoing process that we're not going to give up on, because these kind of, for example, my pronouns are they, them, and pronouns have become so complex that some people will embody both pronouns they and she or they and he. So this is a language that is growing and will continue to grow. So it's best that people start welcoming and accepting that.
Yeah. And given the complexity of it all, I wonder, Bev, because, most heteronormatives will say, yes, but give me patience.
Yes.
And I must admit, even myself, I struggle at times, right? And sometimes when we know that we're having somebody from the LGBTQI plus community, my producers and I will double check what are the pronouns.
What are the pronouns, exactly.
And I'll still catch myself struggling.
Yeah.
What is the sentiment within the community about, okay, are we to give these heteronormatives a little bit of leeway and patience on this? Or are we to say to them, actually, get on the gravy train now. You've had enough time to adjust.
Yeah. Look, I'm an activist.
Yeah.
And my activism has always been about encountering people who need a bit of patience and a bit of a nudge. I don't think we would be where we are if we didn't have the patience to allow people to, take time to understand. And I know a lot of people will kind of, want to hit me on the head for that. It's just, even when I was coming out, I knew that I needed to give my folks time, because it took time for me to come out. It took time because we are living in a world that prescribes who we are and who we should be.
Yeah.
And so we live in shame, because we are not what we are supposed to be according to society. Society has indoctrinated all of us to take roles, and these gendered roles, these hierarchies. And if we don't, we're shamed for it.
Yeah.
And so, it took time for me to even be able to use the words and in relation to myself before I even uttered them out loud. Well, for me, it wasn't really that much time. If you know my story, I just went, oh, wait, there's a word that's called gay. Oh, that's me. Oh, hey, I'm gay. But for a lot of people, it takes time. And if it takes time for even our parents, surely we need to be able to give people time. Having said that,
yes,
it's been a while. Yes, it's been a while. Ngesin to say it too. In our own languages, we don't have those pronouns.
Yeah.
Right? In Latin languages, even a table is a she.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a pen, like everything is gendered. And so now we're learning to ungender. Because honestly, really, why is a table a she?
Sure.
Which is in the same way, why are we being indoctrinated in this way? Which obviously gives some kind of weight and importance depending on what this gender is.
Yeah.
And we've moved beyond that. Our spirits are not gendered. We know this already, those of us who do. And it's up to everybody else to start learning it and getting with the program.
Absolutely. On the positive is, and Peacewood sort of touched on it, on the positive, it seems like it's now sort of a generational divide.
Yeah.
Gen X and ultimately are going to parent Gen Alpha are really conscious about languaging and word, and they are very direct about it.
I am very, very excited about where we're going because there's a lot of there's a lot of shifts in mindset, shifts in ways of being, shifts in spirituality. That excites me because the shifts really do mean that there's change. Obviously, if you look at the right wing is trying to kind of hold on to what is familiar.
Yeah.
And what is familiar is the hierarchies. You know, what is familiar is all the different types of oppressions that exist. But yes, Gen Alpha, hello. Because you see with little kids who say, are you a girl or a boy?
Yes.
And you say, well, actually, I'm kind of neither. And they go, oh. And then they move on with life. It is the most incredible thing to see. It's when you know that hate is actually taught. Nobody's born hating.
Let's reflect on 30 years, right? It's 30 years of democracy in South Africa. Just we wake up to the new era, the new era that has all kinds of implications for everybody. But it's also 30 years of democratic governance, and as it pertains to recognizing the LGBTQIA plus community. I have such a problem with always using the word community because in my mind, I'm like, it others.
Yes,
it's trying not to other, but it others.
Yes. I mean, it's complex, but it's not.
Right?
You want to belong. And this is about belonging. When you are othered all your life, when you find people like you, it's such a joy.
Yeah.
It affirms your humanity. And so, you want to belong to groups of people. So we belong together.
Yeah.
Community, though, does imply a little bit more unity than what we actually in reality have, which I think sometimes is a little bit sad. But then that's, I think, a different conversation.
I mean, it's part of the 30 years of reflection. Maybe peace with you jumping. Because Bev is like, let me calculate my words here. Because we often reflect, but we reflect from an outside lens, right? Maybe let's have the reflection on the strides that the community in itself has had, or perhaps where there could be a little bit of friction or maybe misalignment with where we see, depending on who you're talking to. Sir? Peaceworth? Oh, did we lose Peaceworth? I think we lost Peaceworth.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oh, there you
my mic was muted, sorry. Well, on my side, I could say in the past years, there has been like a significant change and shift in terms of some members within the community. However, it's not a direct reflection on the celebration on like the community as a whole. For example, the intersex community is still quite marginalized, is still quite silenced, and a lot of people don't know much about the intersex community or its challenges or how they can be allies. So as much as there has been like a lot of milestones for the LGB and some of T experiences, not so much with the intersex community. So there is a lot of progression, but there's still a lot more that can be achieved.
Talk to us about, what Peaceworth is saying here, that intersection.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to get educated, and we're trying to, myself even, trying to open our minds to it. Talk to us about exactly that. We are trying to get educated.
Yeah. Look, what Peace is talking about, when I joined and was part of the movement in the 90s, in the late 80s and 90s,
Yeah.
we were just all called gay. Until you realize that, gay kind of refers to gay men. We are lesbians. Our issues are not necessarily being addressed in the same spaces. And then, you have bisexual folks that come in and say, hi, we're here too. That is why you have like this long acronym that it seems to be growing. But that's because, queer as an umbrella is all of us that are not, within the margins.
Yeah.
Right? Intersex has been, for me, possibly one of the most fascinating when you look at children who are born. Peace is an intersex activist, and they can tell you a little bit more about themselves if they wish to. But the fact that you have the medical profession actually making decisions for parents and sometimes mutilating and making that gender decision when a child is born intersex and literally saying you either have to be one or the other. And that is quite prevalent all over the world. And nobody blinks an eye choosing the gender of a child who is born neither. And then forcing the parents to kind of live with that and forcing the child to also live with that decision. Intersex people actually exist, and there's a very big number of intersex folks, even those who have been mutilated in order to specify and keep them in the binary. We don't live in the binary. The binary is a construct, whether physically or, internally, however it manifests itself. The binary is a construct that is created by society in order to create the hierarchies and for power and control. And so when doctors mutilate children in order to make sure that they are either this or identify either as male or female, that is mutilation. That should actually, in the statutes, not be allowed. That is illegal. It's not humane, And like I said, Peace is an intersex activist and can tell you more. But that is actually what's going on. And there are many, many, many of our parents who also come on board and say, I knew that my child was neither.
Yeah.
But society demands that we create binaries.
I never professed to know anything about much, Peace, and I think Bev, who's looking at my face right now, just saw my shock and horror in what she's just relayed. This is information that I think is filtering into the reception of many of our listeners for the first time.
Yeah, that's a reality, and it always fascinates me as well how much people don't know and how much it's still a shock. However, it's been in existence for a very long time, and one of the biggest cases in the country is that intersex children are being killed at birth in rural areas by midwives because it is believed that it is a curse for the child to exist. It's still happening today, and that's just a small percentage of the different human rights violations that affect the intersex community. We're counting the education system has messed up, the equality has messed up, the mental health part of it is messed up, medical integrity is messed up. So there's quite a number of different challenges that the intersex community faces. However, there is room for change. There is room for success, as there has been a resolution that was passed by the Human Rights Commission combating the discrimination, violence, and harmful practices against intersex people. So we're hoping that this will trickle down and the root causes will be, sorted out.
Yeah. As we wrap it up, I mean, looking ahead at the next 30, there's never enough time.
No. Especially when it comes to this subject, there's never enough time.
Enough. Yeah. Looking at the next 30, where do we go from here as South Africans, and what do we need to press on even more to affirm and recognize the community and all of its rainbow splendor?
There's a long way to go. I'm very glad to be one of very few privileged people to be invited on shows like yours, to be able to sit with a peace with and be able to have these conversations. We don't have enough of them. I think that's first. Media plays a very important role. I'm a media practitioner.
Yeah.
And as a filmmaker, I still find it hard to get in and have shows that are truly representative. And when I say representative, yes, you may have TV shows that have 1 or 2 gay men. A lot of the time, they are not real 3D, 5D human beings. They're just cut out. They're just there to check the boxes. You know what I mean? So we are not really represented. And our not being represented contributes to our invisibility and contributes to our erasure and contributes to the discrimination. For me, that is big as a practitioner. You know, whether you are trans or intersex or gay or lesbian, however you identify, the fact that I personally do not see somebody that looks like me on my own screen, when I have been a child on TV, when I have been doing this work, I still don't see somebody like me on my screen. How is that possible 30 years since democracy? Are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There is no character who is, you know, non-binary, gender non-conforming lesbian, who is a full character, who is, whether a villain or not.
Yeah.
You know, and when they're villains, they are the epitome of what we are kind of not. And so we've got a long way to go. Having said that, I've also made films and work where I've been all over the media where that would not have happened even 20 years ago. Where, I mean, my last film was called Lesbians Free Everyone. And to have you and all these different people all over national television going, the film is called Lesbians Free Everyone. For me, that's an achievement because that title was meant to provoke and I didn't think that I'd get interviews. And I did. And so we have, you know, we move and then we move back and then we move forward. But I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. This country is alive with possibilities. Remember that tag?
It really is. It really is. And I think, you know, the small gains that we make in our country and the small gains that we make on the continent, as much as parts of the continent are regressing, we hold on to those and we use those as fuels to propel us further and further in the darker times. That is it for our time today. Peaceworth, thank you so much for joining our conversation. It doesn't end here. It doesn't end here. We continue exploring this topic amongst many others on the show, but we've got to make way now for Ashraf Gada and his team. So to my guest, Peaceworth Makuba, who was with Inranti, and of course the incomparable Bev Ditsi joining us in studio.
Thank you so much.
Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you, everybody.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
Top stories: ANC assesses coalition options and Sports Minister Zizi Kodwa resigns. With the news, I am Dino Mutaung. Good afternoon. We begin with election news.